We're at Barnes & Noble in Arlington Heights, and I'm about to go in and talk to American writers Joe Bonadonna and David C. Smith. These two guys are creative powerhouses. Come on in, let's go see what they have to say.
My dad worked for Plastic Binding Corporation, and they made plastic book binders. And across the hall from him, that shared the building, was Spinner Brothers. They were a book bindery, and they did the Grosset and Dunlap books. They even did Playboy. My dad used to bring me home all dinosaur books, the Babar books. No dust jackets, because they didn't do the dust jackets there. And my dad would bring me home books that the foreman gave him. Tons of books. And started reading as soon as kindergarten. And he got me into reading books, and then from there it went to comic books, and then after comic books, paperback books, and then I wrote my first story in 5th grade, but that was from an Outer Limits inspired episode. But my dad got me into reading like he got me in the books, or to film.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and some of the Golden books too. My mother used to buy me, which everybody's
had those.
Yes.
Then just keep on telling me about it.
Yeah, the Grosset and Dunlap I'm looking for. I still have some, and I gave a lot away, and I'm sorry I gave them away. And it's hard to find those Grosset and Dunlap from the mid-50s, early 60s.
Oh yeah. What about Classics Illustrated?
That was big influence on me. Sometimes I actually would read the novels. I had 30, 40, or 50 of those. And then we are right at the age group when we were reading DC, Superman, Batman, The Flash, and then all of a sudden, what's this new comic book? Marvel Comics?
Oh yeah.
1960, I think it was, and there's Spider-Man. So we read all the origin editions of Marvel.
Oh yeah.
So we grew up with Marvel, and then by the time I was 18, 20 years old, I really wasn't reading comic books anymore. I was reading paperbacks, trying to expand how much I was reading and by what genre.
That's awesome. And David, what about you? What were you reading as a kid?
It goes back so far I can't remember. I know that by the time I was 9 or 10 years old, I was writing my own little stories. I still have one of those little books, and those were influenced, I'm sure, by movies that I saw on TV, because I did one called The Java Man, which is kind of like the Neanderthal Man, and I'd write these little books, and I would fold the paper in half and then scrunch them under a stapler, so I would have like actual little books. A lot of Golden books, a lot of comic books. Two things I remember. We had an ancient encyclopedia or encyclopedia set and then a story set. It's called The Wonderland of Knowledge, and I've still seen copies around. They probably cost a fortune now, but they were maroon covers, very heavy, embossed covers. And volume 1 was the simplest kind of reading you could imagine. It was little fairy tales and poems. And volume 2 is a little more advanced. Volume 3 was more advanced. And this went up to 10 or 12 volumes, and you got history and classic stories and poetry and everything. Lots of pictures of pirates, lots of pictures of adventure and stuff. So I love those. And just an awful lot of children's stories in those that I read. And then when I got a little older and was reading comic books, but then started to read paperbacks, my dad's mom loved Alfred Hitchcock and The Twilight Zone.
Oh,
she used to get Alfred Hitchcock magazine, and we used to watch Alfred Hitchcock and The Twilight Zone on Friday nights. And she had the little paperbacks, and so I'm sure it's an influence. I still have some of her little old paperbacks, these things that cost 35 cents, a quarter. And they would reprint stories from Weird Tales. I found out later it came from Weird Tales, and reprinted stuff from Alfred Hitchcock magazine. So I'm reading Manly Wade Wellman before I knew who he was, and Robert Bloch before I knew who he was. And Alfred Hitchcock, and Ray Russell and Richard Matheson, and I'm reading all these people before I really knew who they were. And some of the stuff went back to the early issues of Weird Tales, and that really influenced me a lot. But then so did the movies, so much so that I thought I was going to major in cinema in college. But it would have meant if you're serious about it, you move out to Southern California. I was interested in that. So I started writing stories for the fanzines, and it was horror stories and fantasy stories.
Okay, my next book will be, I'm not going to give it a confirmed date on when it's coming out, but soon. It's called Three Against the Stars. It'll be coming out through Airship 27 Productions. And it's an homage to one of my earliest film influences, Gunga Din. And, you know, and the poem, because some of Kipling's poems and certain other poems influenced me as, you know, write song lyrics and that. And it's also an homage to Flash Gordon, which was really, still is real big with me. And it's, there's a lot of John Ford in it. So if John Ford and Michael Curtiz had decided to write a book together with Alex Raymond, this would be it. It's about friendship. It's about Marines of the future. It's dedicated to all our men and women in uniform. And the character, the central character, is an alien who wants to be a Marine. But because a Marine Corps policy, he's not human, he can't be. He is in his planet's military. They want him to study to be a doctor, so he's assigned to the Marine Corps to get trained in battlefield medicine. So he's a corpsman attached to the Corps, and and it's a relationship. There's Sergeant O'Hara, Seamus Aloysius O'Hara. He's my Victor McLaughlin. He's the big gruff sergeant. There's Fernando Cortez, who, they keep teasing him, calling him Ferdinand. He's Pedro Armendaris. And then there's Sergeant Claudia Akira, who is Sicilian and Japanese, and I don't know who she is. And there's Easter eggs and homages to everybody in there. And like I said, it's just all my influences, film influences and literary influences thrown together. And I never did a space opera before. And this was kind of, a challenge. It's based on a film script I did. And basically why I did it was because I was challenged. I could not write this script in 60,000 words. It would take me 150,000 words. And I got it to not even 61,000 words. So that'll be out hopefully by the end of the year. We'll see, but it's on its way.
Okay, so the next one, the title is so far as we know, the title is Against the Tides. Yeah, Bloody Red Buchanan is the name of our pirate captain, and it's against the tides of hell. That's it, and it's a tough story. I actually wrote a first draft of this story, very rough, decades ago, and didn't do anything with it. And Joe knew about that, so he said, "Let me take a look at it." So he wound up polishing, really finishing and completing this very rough first draft that I had. And it's a pirate story, but instead of taking place in the Caribbean in the 1600s, it takes place around Madagascar, in that section of Africa, in the 1600s, and it also gets into the supernatural a lot. So we bring in Dagon. Yeah, I added
some HBL stuff. Yep. Dagon and
the sorcerer,
an ancient Philistine,
yeah,
sorcerer.
Yeah, he was like almost immortal and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
An undying wizard, and I always liked it. I asked Dave once, "Let me read this," because I'm a pirate now. I says, "There's something here. Why you didn't finish it, I don't know." So I said, I got like 6, 7 chapters of my own pirate novel I never went any further with.
Oh, that's right.
There's some similarities. I said, "What if I do a mashup?" And it took me 5 months to get it all down. I must have went through 5 drafts, 3 of them handwritten because it was a lot easier.
You went through a lot of drafts.
Yeah, and then 3 months of just more drafts on the computer, on Word, and I finished it about a month ago and gave it to Dave for him to read, proof, add his 2 cents, because it's 75%, 80% Dave's story.
It's great fun. I'd completely forgotten what I'd written, and Joe said, first chapter mainly me, second chapter mainly you. You can't tell.
You can't tell,
It's,
'cause
it's a romp.
I
It's so
seem
much
to have
fun.
it. I learned that from our screenplay
Yeah.
of combining our styles.
Yeah, we worked on a screenplay together, which is still like a great screenplay.
Yeah. So Monday I start the final polish
Yeah.
and the proof, getting it all, and then hopefully within 2 weeks, we're going to send that off and see if the
who's
person who's
interested.
getting first look wants
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And if I have to do, if my other book comes in and I got to proof and edit that, then I'll set ours
Sure.
aside to get that out. So hopefully this will, find a home right away.
Good fight scenes. The
Good
fight
fight
scenes
scenes?
are good. The
Yeah,
fight
we
scenes
worked.
are good.
There's he did battles at sea. I did
Yeah.
battles at land. We got
Yeah.
there's action in almost every scene.
Oh, yeah.
There's 2 love stories.
Yep, going on.
And
Yep.
there's horror, and there's a lot of little Easter eggs for people to pick out.
And
like,
some truly
oh.
creepy stuff, like on that island. I mean,
Yeah, that was stuff
very
I
creepy,
had
yeah.
back in the days when I could think
Yeah.
of creepy stuff.
yeah, it's creepy.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Sure, thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.